What if I told you that right now, at this very moment, you're either influencing someone or being influenced by someone else? There's no neutral ground, no Switzerland. You're either shaping the thoughts and decisions of others, or you're having your thoughts and decisions shaped by forces you don't even recognize. Think about the last major purchase you made. Did you really decide to buy that product? Or were you influenced by carefully crafted marketing messages, social proof, scarcity tactics, and psychological triggers designed to make you feel like you needed it? Think about your career choices, your relationship decisions, even your political opinions. How many of these were truly your independent thoughts versus ideas that were strategically planted in your mind by others? This isn't conspiracy theory nonsense. This is simply how influence works in the modern world. And the people who understand it are accumulating massive amounts of power, wealth, and control while everyone else remains completely oblivious to the game being played. But here's what surprised me when I went through this material. These techniques aren't secrets locked away in some elite vault. They're not mystical powers reserved for the chosen few. They are systematic, learnable skills that anyone can master if they understand the psychology behind them. So today, I'm going to break down the entire science of strategic influence. You'll learn the 6 psychological principles that drive all human decision-making. You'll discover advanced persuasion techniques that create almost irresistible influence. And most importantly, you'll get a practical framework you can start using today to become the person who shapes outcomes rather than the person who gets shaped. Let's start with something that might make you uncomfortable. You are not a rational decision-maker. I know you think you are. I thought I was too. We tell ourselves that we weigh the facts, consider our options carefully, and make logical choices. But decades of research in psychology and neuroscience have proven beyond any doubt that this is simply not how the human brain works. Here's the brutal truth. We are emotional decision makers who use logic to justify choices we've already made subconsciously. Every decision you've ever made, from the trivial to the life-changing, was ultimately driven by emotion and then justified with logic after the fact. This is why facts alone rarely persuade anyone. You can present the most logical, well-researched argument in the world, but if it doesn't connect emotionally, it will be ignored or forgotten. People don't buy products because of features. They buy because of how those features make them feel. They don't support ideas because they're logical. They support them because they're inspiring. They don't follow leaders because they're smart. They follow them because they feel understood and valued. Now, there are 6 core psychological principles that drive all human influence. Master these, and you'll have the foundation for shaping any outcome. The first principle is reciprocity. This is probably the most powerful principle in all of influence. When someone does something for us, we experience psychological discomfort until we can repay that debt. This isn't conscious most of the time. It's a deep-seated psychological drive that influences behavior even when people aren't aware of it. Have you ever noticed how charities send you free address labels or calendars before asking for donations? That's reciprocity in action. They're creating a psychological debt that makes you more likely to give. Master influencers don't ask for what they want immediately. Instead, they lead with value. They offer help, share useful information, provide introductions, or solve problems for others before ever making a request. By the time they do ask for something, the other person feels a natural inclination to help because of the psychological debt that has been created. But here's where it gets interesting. Reciprocity also applies to concessions. When you make a request and someone says no, you can often get them to agree to a smaller request because they feel obligated to meet you halfway. This is called the door-in-the-face technique. If you want someone to agree to help you move, first ask them to help you move and store your stuff for a month. When they decline, ask them just to help you move for one day. They're much more likely to say yes because they feel they're meeting you in the middle. The second principle is social proof. We're social creatures who look to others for cues about how to behave, especially in uncertain situations. We assume that if other people are doing something, it must be the right thing to do. This is why testimonials are so powerful. Why crowds attract more crowds. Why you check reviews before buying anything online. Why bestseller labels actually increase sales. Strategic influencers leverage social proof by demonstrating that their ideas, products, or proposals have been accepted by others, especially by people the target audience respects or identifies with. They use case studies, testimonials, endorsements, and references to show that their request is not unusual. It's actually what smart, successful people do. The third principle is authority. We're hardwired to defer to authority figures, often without even questioning whether that authority is legitimate. This is why credentials, titles, uniforms, and symbols of status are so influential. But here's what most people miss. Authority doesn't have to come from formal positions. It can be established through expertise, experience, or even just confident presentation. You don't need a PhD to be perceived as an authority. You need demonstrated competence and confident delivery. This is why thought leaders spend so much time creating content, speaking at events, and sharing their knowledge before ever trying to sell anything. They're building authority through demonstrated expertise, not claimed credentials. The fourth principle is commitment and consistency. Once people make a commitment, especially a public one, they feel psychological pressure to remain consistent with that commitment. This happens because inconsistency creates cognitive dissonance, which is psychologically uncomfortable. Strategic influencers use this by getting people to make small commitments that lead to larger ones. This is called the foot in the door technique. Get someone to agree to a small request first, and they're more likely to agree to a bigger one later because they want to be consistent with their initial commitment. Ever wonder why car salespeople ask you so many small questions before the big pitch? You want a car that's safe, right? Yes. And you want good fuel economy? Yes. And you want something reliable? Yes. Each yes creates a micro-commitment that makes the final yes more likely. The fifth principle is liking. People are more likely to be influenced by people they like. This seems obvious, but most people don't understand what actually makes someone likable in a professional context. It's not about being funny or entertaining. It's about finding genuine common ground, showing sincere interest in others, and demonstrating that you understand their perspective. The most powerful aspect of liking is similarity. We like people who are similar to us. This means that effective influencers adapt their communication style, pace, and even body language to match the person they're trying to influence. They find shared experiences, mutual connections, or common values that create a sense of kinship. The sixth principle is scarcity. We value things more when we perceive them as rare or limited. This is why limited time offers work. Why exclusive opportunities are so attractive. Why people want what they can't have. Scarcity triggers our fear of missing out and compels us to take action. But scarcity isn't just about quantity. It's also about accessibility. When information, opportunities, or resources are difficult to obtain, they automatically become more valuable in people's minds. Now, let me share a framework that separates master influencers from everyone else. It's called the Strategic Influence Framework, and it consists of 6 phases: preparation, positioning, presentation, persuasion, persistence, and partnership. Phase 1 is preparation. This is where most people fail because they skip it entirely. They jump straight to making their request without doing any groundwork. Preparation begins with research. You need to understand the person you're trying to influence at a deeper level than they understand themselves. What keeps them awake at night? What would make their job easier? What are they trying to achieve personally and professionally? What obstacles are they facing? This isn't just about gathering information. It's about developing genuine empathy for their situation. When you truly understand someone's perspective, you can craft your approach in ways that feel supportive rather than manipulative. Phase 2 is positioning. This is where you establish the context for your eventual request. Most people make the mistake of leading with their ask, which immediately puts the other person in a defensive posture. Strategic influencers establish favorable context first. Positioning involves building rapport and credibility before making any request. It involves establishing authority by demonstrating competence. It involves setting the right anchor so your eventual request seems reasonable. And it involves creating urgency by helping people understand why this matters now. Phase 3 is presentation. If you've done preparation and positioning correctly, your presentation should feel like a natural conclusion rather than a surprise. The key is structure. Start by summarizing the situation. Remind them of the problems you've identified. Then present your solution as a natural response to those issues. One powerful technique during presentation is the assumptive close. Instead of asking if they want to move forward, assume they do and start discussing implementation details. So when we start implementing this next week, would Monday or Wednesday work better for our first session? People often go along with the assumption rather than correcting it. Phase 4 is persuasion. This is where you handle objections and concerns. Most people get defensive when faced with objections, but strategic influencers welcome them because objections reveal what's really preventing commitment. Here's the key. Most objections aren't really about the surface issue being raised. They're about deeper concerns or fears. When someone says your price is too high, they might really be saying they're not convinced of the value. When they say they need to think about it, they might really be saying they don't feel confident about the decision. Effective persuasion starts with acknowledging the concern and showing you understand it. Don't immediately counter with arguments. Ask questions to understand the deeper issue. Help me understand what specifically concerns you about the pricing. Once you understand the real concern, you can address it directly. Phase 5 is persistence. Most people give up too easily. They ask once, get a no or maybe, and either give up or become pushy. Strategic influencers understand that persistence is about being patient and systematic, not annoying. Effective persistence involves staying in touch without being overwhelming. Share relevant articles. Make useful introductions. Provide helpful insights. Each interaction should strengthen the relationship and reinforce your value. Different people respond to different types of communication, so create multiple touchpoints through different channels. Phase 6 is partnership. This begins once you've achieved initial commitment, but it's crucial for long-term influence. Most people stop working on the relationship once they get what they want. But today's agreement creates the foundation for tomorrow's opportunities. Partnership involves over-delivering on your commitments and creating ongoing mutual value. Every interaction is an opportunity to build trust and credibility for future influence opportunities. Now let me share some advanced techniques that create almost irresistible persuasion. The first is contrast and reframing. The human brain doesn't evaluate things in isolation. It makes comparisons. The same offer can seem expensive or cheap, reasonable or outrageous, depending entirely on what it's compared to. If you want to sell a service for $10,000, first mention your premium package that costs $20,000. Suddenly, $10,000 doesn't seem expensive. It seems like a bargain. But reframing goes deeper than numbers. It's about changing the entire context. Instead of discussing cost, discuss investment. Instead of talking about problems, talk about opportunities. The second technique is the yes ladder. Get people to agree with a series of small statements before asking for your main commitment. Each yes makes the next yes more likely because of the consistency principle. You agree that increasing efficiency is important for your team, right? Yes. And you'd want any solution to be simple to implement? Yes. You'd also want to see measurable results within the first month? Yes. Then this approach should be perfect for your situation. The third technique is loss aversion framing. People feel the pain of losing something roughly twice as strongly as they feel the pleasure of gaining something equivalent. This means people are more motivated to avoid losses than to achieve gains. Instead of saying, this opportunity will help you make more money, say, this opportunity will prevent you from falling behind your competitors. Instead of highlighting benefits of taking action, emphasize the costs of inaction. The fourth technique is objection preemption. Raise and address concerns before the other person brings them up. This shows you understand their perspective, prevents them from building emotional investment in objections, and allows you to frame the response favorably. Now, you might be wondering about the timeline for implementation. Here's what we found works best. The fifth technique is value stacking. Present multiple benefits individually before revealing the total package. Each component is evaluated separately, so the sum feels greater than if they evaluated the package holistically. The strategic analysis alone is worth $20,000, the implementation plan another $15,000, the training program $10,000. Normally that would total $45,000, but I can offer you the entire package for $35,000. The sixth technique is future pacing. Help people mentally experience the positive outcomes of accepting your proposal. Imagine 6 months from now when your team is running more efficiently, your costs have decreased by 15%, and you're getting recognition from senior leadership for the improvements. How would that feel? This makes benefits concrete rather than abstract. Now, let's talk about building authority. Authority is the most powerful form of influence because it doesn't feel like influence at all. When people perceive you as an authority, they don't feel persuaded. They feel like they're receiving expert guidance. The foundation of all authority is genuine expertise. You cannot fake your way to lasting authority. You must actually become exceptionally good at something valuable. This means going deeper than surface-level knowledge to develop insights and understanding that others don't have. But expertise alone isn't enough. You must demonstrate your expertise consistently and publicly. This means creating content, sharing insights, speaking at events, and finding every opportunity to showcase your knowledge in valuable ways. Content creation is one of the most powerful ways to build authority. When you consistently create valuable content in your area of expertise, you demonstrate your knowledge, help people solve problems, stay top of mind with your audience, and create a body of work that establishes credibility. Public speaking positions you as an expert worth listening to. The very fact that you've been invited to speak gives you credibility. If you're not getting invited to major events, start smaller. Local meetups, company meetings, webinars. Every speaking opportunity builds your reputation. Strategic networking with other experts creates valuable relationships. These relationships give you access to insider information, create opportunities for collaboration, and provide platforms for sharing your expertise. But focus on what you can do for them, not what they can do for you. Document every success. Measure every outcome. Collect testimonials. These become powerful social proof. The most powerful case studies include specific metrics. Don't just say you helped someone improve. Say you helped them increase revenue by 37% in 4 months. Now here's my personal take on all of this, and this is important. Everything you've learned today is powerful. These techniques work, but I need to be honest with you about something that most influence books don't talk about. There's a hidden danger in this material. When you learn these techniques, you start seeing influence everywhere. You notice it in advertising, in conversations, in relationships. And some people take this knowledge in a dark direction. They start viewing every interaction as a battle to be won. They become manipulative rather than influential. Here's what I believe. The difference between manipulation and strategic influence isn't the technique. It's the intention. Manipulation is getting people to do things that benefit you at their expense. Strategic influence is helping people make decisions that benefit everyone involved. The most successful influencers I've studied aren't the ones who trick people. They're the ones who genuinely help others achieve their goals while also achieving their own. They approach influence from a service mindset. They ask themselves, how can I create value for this person while also advancing my objectives? This isn't just ethical, it's more effective in the long run. Manipulation creates short-term wins but destroys trust. Strategic influence builds relationships that compound over time. The person you help today becomes the advocate who opens doors for you tomorrow. So as you apply these techniques, I want you to constantly ask yourself, is this helping the other person make a better decision, or am I just trying to get what I want regardless of their interests? Another thing most influence books miss is that these skills require practice. You can't just read about reciprocity and suddenly become masterful at applying it. You need to practice in low-stakes situations until the techniques become natural. Here's an exercise I've designed that actually works. For the next 7 days, practice one principle per day. Day 1, focus only on reciprocity. Look for opportunities to give value before asking for anything. Day 2, practice social proof. Look for ways to demonstrate that others support your ideas. Day 3, work on authority. Find opportunities to demonstrate competence before making requests. After each interaction, write down what you tried, how the person responded, and what you'd do differently. This feedback loop accelerates your skill development dramatically. Now let me give you a simple action plan you can start today. Step 1. Choose one influence principle to focus on this week. Don't try to apply everything at once. Pick reciprocity or social proof and look for opportunities to practice it in every conversation. Step 2. Before any important conversation, spend 5 minutes preparing. Who are you talking to? What do they want? What concerns might they have? How can you align your request with their interests? Step 3. Start building your authority systematically. What's one topic you could become known for? Start creating content, even if it's just LinkedIn posts or internal presentations. Consistency matters more than perfection. Step 4. Document your results. Keep track of what works and what doesn't. Your personal experience will teach you more than any book. Step 5. Find an accountability partner. Someone you can practice with, get feedback from, and discuss influence strategies with. Learning in isolation is much harder than learning in community. Now I want to hear from you. What's one situation in your life right now where you need to influence someone? Maybe it's getting buy-in for a project at work. Maybe it's negotiating a raise. Maybe it's convincing a partner to support a major decision. Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and I might even share some specific strategies in a future video. If you found this valuable, here's what I want you to do. Subscribe and hit that notification bell because I'm going deep on influence, persuasion, and personal development every single week. The people who master these skills don't just read about them once. They immerse themselves. They study continuously. They refine their approach constantly. Remember, you're either shaping the thoughts and decisions of others, or you're having your thoughts and decisions shaped by forces you don't even recognize. The principles are proven. The techniques are learnable. The results are achievable. The only question is whether you'll actually apply what you've learned or go back to hoping your good ideas and hard work will somehow be recognized and rewarded on their own. Your journey to strategic influence mastery starts right now. What you do in the next 24 hours will determine whether this video was just entertainment or the beginning of a fundamental shift in how you navigate every aspect of your life. I'll see you in the next one.